right, so we're going to be reviewing for our quiz this week. This quiz is going to cover multiplying and dividing rational numbers, also including order of operations. And, with the rational numbers, we need to be able to work with integers, fractions, and decimals. So I highly recommend working these problems out with me, and hopefully this will be good practice for your quiz later this week. So the first one, we need to determine the value of -5 plus 8 times -4. Now, when we're looking at problems like this with different operations, we do have to use the order of operations, which we've talked about, which states that we have to do parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, add, subtract. So in that order. So even though, yes, there are parentheses here, they're just helping us keep that negative sign with the number. Okay, so we can skip parentheses and exponents. Now we can look for multiplication or division. So my two options really here, I either have -5 plus 8 or 8 times -4. Well, according to order of operations, I have to do multiplication before I can add. So I'm going to multiply these right here. 8 times -4, and we get -32. And I mean, if you want to put that in parentheses, you can, just to make sure that you know that it's negative. Then bring down the other number. Okay, next we've got -5 plus -32. So since we're done with parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, now ready to do add and subtract. Well, all I have left is this step anyways. So -5 plus -32. So if you think back to Unit 1, same signs. So same signs add. So 5 plus 32 is 37. Same sign, keep the sign. So our final answer will be -37. Okay, number 2, determine the value of -8 times -8 times -8. Okay, so again, using order of operations. We don't really have any parentheses here. I know they're with the -8s, but that's just to let you know that it's a negative. We don't have any exponents, so now we're ready to do multiplication division. We go left to right like we're reading a sentence. So I'm just going to do 2 numbers at a time. So -8 times -8. Well, if we think back to earlier this unit, we talked about this symbol to help us when we're multiplying with integers. If you have a negative times a negative, you're going to get a positive. So -8 times -8 is going to be positive 64. Okay, bring down the next number. Okay, still multiplying 64 times -8. So off to the side, 4 times 8 is 32. Let's see, 8 times 6 is 48, plus 3 is 51. So that'd be 512. Okay, but I have one's positive, one's negative. So if I cover one positive, one negative, that leaves my answer with a negative sign. So the product here would be -512. Okay, number 3, we have to use order of operations. So we are going to work in the parentheses first because we do have several terms inside the parentheses. So now that we're inside the parentheses, we still have to follow our order of operations. Okay, I don't see any exponents here. So then I can look for multiplication or division. So we do have some multiplication inside the parentheses. -2 times 8. Well, one's negative, one's positive. So that would give us -16. Okay, write everything else down just as is. Okay, still in the parentheses, 43 plus -16. Well, one's positive, one's negative. So different signs, subtract. So really that's like saying 43 minus 16, which will give you 27. And then it'll be positive since 43 is farther away from 0 than -16 is. Now you've got 1/3 times 27. So since it's beside each other, that means to multiply. So you have two options here. You can either do 1/3 times 27, or you can also do 27 divided by 3. Either way will give you the answer. So in this case, 1/3 times 27 would give you 9. Because that's a third of 27. Okay, then we have 3 word problems here. So number 4, Alicia's birthday cake had 7 slices at the beginning of the party. Alicia had 2 slices of cake. What is the decimal number that represents the fraction of the cake that she ate? Okay, so she had 2 out of the 7 slices. So as a fraction, it will be 2/7. So to convert that to a decimal, using division, I would do 2 divided by 7. So 2 is on the inside, 7 is on the outside. Okay, we cannot do 7 going into 2. So we have to do a 0 and a decimal, which will let us turn that into 20. 7 can go into 20 2 times because 2 times 7 is 14. 20 minus 14 is 6. Okay, now I need to keep going, but I don't really have anything to bring down. But since I have that decimal and a 0, it lets us continue bringing on zeros to continue working the problem. 7 can go into 60 8 times because 8 times 7 is 56. Subtract, we get 4. Bring down a 0. 7 can go into 40 5 times because 5 times 7 is 35. We subtract and we get 5. Bring down a 0. 7 can go into 50. Let's see, that would be 7 times 8 is 56, so that wouldn't work. 7 times 7 is 49. Okay, and I'm running out of room. We get a 1, bring down a 0. 7 can go to 10 1 time. So this is going to be an irrational number, which means that it's going to keep going on and on and on. It's not going to repeat. It's not going to terminate or end. There's not going to be a nice pattern. So this is just one of those numbers that you probably would just have to round off. So if I were to round this to the nearest, let's see, let me take this. I want to round it to the nearest 1,000th place. So I'd look at this 5, look next door. Since it's 5 or more, add 1 more. So the 5 becomes a 6. So then in 0.286, which would be 0 and 286 thousandths. If they asked you to round it to nearest hundredths place, that would be where the 8 is. Look next door, 5 or more, add 1 more. So then the 8 would come a 9, and it'd be 0 and 29 hundredths. So it just depends on what it wants you to round it to. But since this would be a really long decimal, you'd probably just want to round it off either at the 1,000th place or the 100th place. Okay, number 5. Mateo was able to successfully catch 41 out of 50 passes at football practice. What is the decimal equivalent to the fraction 41 out of 50? All right, so we have 41 out of 50. That's our fraction. So there were 50 total passes. He was able to catch 41 of them. So we're going to convert this fraction to a decimal. So one of the easiest ways, I think, to do this is looking at your denominator. And if you have a denominator that can easily go to 100, that would probably be the quickest way. So 50 can easily go to 100 by multiplying by 2. So if I multiply the denominator by 2, I also have to multiply the numerator by 2. Okay, 41 times 2 is 82. 50 times 2 is 100. So now if I read this fraction, 82 hundredths, or 82 out of 100, I can write that decimal as 0.82, because that will be 82 hundredths. Okay, you could also do this one long division if you wanted to, but like we've talked about, if you ever have a denominator that will easily go to 10 or 100 or 1,000, that's probably going to be your best strategy. So 0.82 is his decimal equivalent. Okay, number 6. At the golf course, it costs $6.75 per hour to rent a golf cart. If you plan on renting the golf cart for 4.5 hours, how much would you pay? So we're going to be multiplying here. We're going to be multiplying the decimals. So it costs $16.75 per hour. and we are going to rent it for 4.5 hours. Okay, I'm ready to multiply. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 7 is 35. Plus 2 is 37. 5 times 6 is 30. Plus 3 is 33. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 1 is, 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 3 is 8. Okay, so I'm done with those. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 7 is 28. Plus 2 is 30. 4 times 6 is 24. Plus 3 is 27. 4 times 1 is 4. Plus 2 is 6. Okay, now we're ready to add. So 5, 7, 3, 15. Now we got to put our decimal place back in. So we look to see how many places past the decimal. So the first number had 2 places past the decimal. Second number had 1 place past the decimal. So 2 plus 1 is 3. Excuse me. So then I need to start from the right and go in 1, 2, 3 places. And so we get 75 and 375 thousandths, which is technically correct. But since we're talking about money, we do want to round to the nearest hundredth place, because that would be like the nearest cent or the nearest penny. So your hundredth place would be right here where the 7 is. Look next door. Since it's 5 or more, add 1 more. So that would become an 8. So then our more correct answer in this sense, since we're talking about money, would be $75.38. That's how much it would cost to rent the golf cart for 4.5 hours.